And coming up tonight on The Wrap, Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign continues to stumble as Chipotle's stock continues to soar. New Kansas welfare rules ban the purchase of tattoos, lingerie, and psychic services. There goes Heather's retirement destination. And would you want to live to be 1,000? Rick Unger shares his secret. We'll discuss all of that, plus yay or nay and potluck. This is The Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And joining me tonight after a good dish of Chipotle, as usual, is SiriusXM host, Forbes.com columnist, and the guy who keeps inviting me to play Candy Crush on Facebook. He is my co-host.
You too? Yeah, I hate that.
Unger loves that.
By the way,
game.
I'm the 2,000-year-old man.
Oh, really?
One of my favorite recordings, by the way.
Fascinating. We'll discuss that a little bit later. And she's a power attorney from Philadelphia. She's America's pundit. Heather Hansen is here to Lady in Red. And finally, she's the editor of JaneUnchained.com. She bought books and everything. Jane Velez Mitchell is here. Let's get right to the Daily Download.
Yeah. So I'll try both your chai and your Carmelo, and maybe a glass of water too.
Absolutely.
Good.
Can do, man.
And maybe Jen with some lemon in it, like you've got there. That would be great.
I can do that.
Good. Well, I'm going to go over here.
And there she is, everyday American Hillary Clinton, just stopping by a coffee shop in Iowa to speak to some everyday Iowans. But the visit wasn't random at all, and neither were the people that are at the coffee shop who talked to her. But we'll get to that in a bit. Yes, we've all been talking about Hillary Clinton a lot lately, but the reason is she gives us media types so much to talk about. Today alone, news reports talked about how Mrs. Clinton's Chipotle visit leaked by the campaign of Mrs. Clinton. CNN reporting. CNN saying Clinton misrepresents family history. Huffington Post says Hillary Clinton praises Elizabeth Warren. And it goes on. But let's start with Tuesday's first campaign stop in Iowa. Of course, these stops are planned, but you don't always hear about patrons being bought in to talk to the candidate. But that's exactly what the Clinton camp did on Wednesday. The Daily Mail reporting that these men were handpicked by the campaign staff and even driven by Hillary's people to the coffee shop. Both individuals happen to be heavily involved, by the way, with the Democratic Party in Iowa. Rick, a little embarrassing to say the least that this news got out.
You know, everything gets out. And that's actually my problem. If you take any one of these incidents, they're not that big of a deal, so she exaggerated a little bit. She shouldn't. But, you know, take all these things and they're not that big. But what's bothering me is I look at her campaign staff and I go, what's wrong with you people? Don't you know the time we are living in? If you say something that's an exaggeration, there are going to be 15 reporters who have the facts that are going to jump on you. If you lock kids or sort of lock kids in their classroom because that was over exaggerated, but it's going to mean a story. All of these little things that equal stories. You have to avoid these things, folks. There's nothing you can say or do in the year 2015 that will not be recorded. And if Hillary hasn't learned that by now, well, I don't know what to say.
It's a great point, Heather, because with Google now you could look up anything and anybody can be tracked. It's not 1992 anymore when her husband ran, or even 2008, to Rick's point, and it is perfect. You can't get away with anything, and the scripted moments just aren't going to fly for 19 months.
Well, and that's the problem. She's really uncomfortable. Like even in that shot we just showed where she's ordering the water, you can tell that she feels like she's being watched and she doesn't like it.
Well, she was
doesn't
being
have
watched.
But she doesn't have that comfort level that her husband had, that Barack Obama had when he was running. She doesn't have that ability to be the every woman that she's trying to appear to be. And if she can't do it, then she needs to try to appear to be something else, because that lack of authenticity is a problem.
I think you're all ganging up on Hillary. I mean, she, according to a lot of people, can't do anything right. If she has a driver, oh my gosh, she doesn't drive herself like all the other candidates drive themselves. What a nonsensical objection. If she goes into Chipotle, she's a fake populist. Oh, if she talks to a bunch of informed young Democrats in Iowa, what is she supposed to do? Go out and hang out in the corner with a bunch of stoners who barely know who the president of the United States is?
But she is supposed to be able to go into a diner and talk to regular people. She is. And I agree with you. A lot of this is nonsense. A lot of this is unnecessary. But Her campaign is putting her in this position. That's the crime to me, not what she is or isn't doing.
It's avoidable nonsense.
It's
avoidable
avoidable
nonsense.
nonsense. I'd be very concerned. I am very concerned about that. I don't know what these people are thinking. They're not running this correctly.
Let me say this. I think this is all going to boomerang because I think a lot of women relate to what's being done right now to Hillary Clinton. And they're going to empathize and relate to how she's being attacked. And it's going to boomerang on those people who are attacking her relentlessly because they're going to see, obviously, it comes from a bias. It's not attacking her issues. You know, they attack her for the Clinton Foundation. I did some research today. 80-some% of all money raised by the Clinton Foundation goes directly to programs. Does anybody ever mention that? No.
Well, I mean, to Jane's point, Karl Rove wrote an op-ed in today's Wall Street Journal talking about how you can't just attack Hillary. You've got to come up with a better argument. You've got to have your own policies and something to go forward. And I think that that's true. Attacking her is not going to win the game.
Let's bring in
Some
another
attacks would help.
opinion on this one. Famed economist and opinion maker Peter Morrissey from Washington, D.C. joins us. Peter, what are your takeaways from the start of the campaign so far?
Well, I think Hillary won the first round, and now she's getting beaten around a little bit in the second round. Her introduction, her video was very, very solid. It hit the high points without her saying very much. You know, race, gender, fairness, jobs, equality. Those are the things that Barack Obama represented and used to cobble together 51% of the votes. And now Mrs. Clinton wants to hold on to that majority. The Republican response was largely negative. It wasn't about what they would do for these people, but rather it was about, you know, tarring Mrs. Clinton. The reality is, no matter how much you rope-a-dope Mrs. Clinton, because women want a woman president, that unless they show them that they have something better to offer, she just never goes down very much in the polls. I thought that Karl Rove's column today was a bit stretched, and I thought he was trying very, very hard to make a statistical case.
Peter, what was that column,
reminded
just for the
me-
folks at home that didn't read it?
Basically, he went through a lot of statistics to try to show that she was vulnerable. It kind of reminded me of that night on Fox, election night, when he was trying to say that the computer was wrong and that one way or another Romney could still win. But the Republicans need to come forward with a positive agenda, and they haven't done that yet. Instead, they're focused on what people might say and think in South Carolina, which is not a good microcosm of the electorate. And they're just not winning because of that.
Peter Morrissey joining us from Washington. Thanks so much for your input. We appreciate it. Coming up next, Kansas is making headlines with its new rules for welfare participants. We will explain. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV.